Hey there, welcome back to my channel. So let's continue where we left earlier. Right now here in the catalog service, let's try to add all these missing functions. That is, we have already added in this catalog repository. You can see all of these functions, right? So we need to hook up all these functions from the service as well, so at least we can get some kind of response while we are performing the category services, right? Let's add all these functions quickly and then we will walk through together, right? All right, so we have added all these functions, right, to handle all this category operation. So first of all, let's go ahead and create the category. And you can see here we are receiving some input, right? But there is no any kind of types are there, right? But right before that, adding any types here, right? Let's try to hook up all these functions right here in the handler as well as, right? So let's go to this catalog handler, right? And you can see we have plenty of handlers where representing the categories. So these are, right, create category, edit, delete. But yeah, we have two public handlers as well as, which is potentially patching the categories and category by ID. So let's try to add these two missing handler function. Then we will be adding, we'll be hooking up all these functions from there as well as, right? So let's do it one by one. So here I'm going to add this handler dot this is going to be get categories, right? So it has to be a capital letter, a camel case, you can say. Yeah, that's good. So now here again, handler dot it's get category by ID. Okay, cool. So we have these two handler functions, but we don't have any functions right here, right? So let's try to mimic this one and this one as well as. So first one will be our get category. Get categories, right? So this is fulfilled, and we are not required here in any kind of authentication because it's a kind of public function. Can you see it's public, right? So and this one as well as. So in this body cases, let's try to add this one, right? So body cases authentication going to be not required because without logging into this portal, you should able to see the categories and category by ID, right? So these are the two functions we can add it here. Cool. Then now what we are going to do, we are going to handle one by one all these things from top, right? We'll handle the create category, edit, delete, and get categories and category. So here in category service, in category handler, let's try to grab this one, create category, right? So where is it exactly? This one, right? So for create category, definitely take the inputs from the user request, right? So how the request will look like? If you go to Postman, right? You can see here we are creating the category. Category can have a name and it can have a parent ID. Why we are using the parent ID? Because category can have the subcategory as well as. If you visit any kind of e-commerce portal, all right, then you can see like we have a category, let's say smart TV, all right. Smart TVs can have categories. It can have a maybe dimension wise, or maybe price wise, or maybe certain thing you can get it. Or if you go to the smartphone can have also categories, something like that, or it can have a subcategory as well as. So those are scenario can be appear in PureStar. So that's why we are just keeping it the parent ID, right? And image is definitely image is needed, and display order, that is already I have explained why display order is needed, right? But you can customize it. That's not always mandatory to do, right? So let's grab all these things right here, right? And let's go ahead and create something which is we can validate the user input right before creating the categories, right? So in this case, as usual, we need to create one kind of DTO file, right? So the data transfer object we need to create, go ahead here and create one file. This is going to be, we can say anything, but in our case, we can say category DTO, .go, right? So here inside this category DTO.go, or maybe we can say category request. Actually, we need to make it a little bit meaningful, right? So refactor category request. Category request. So here category request in DTO file, let's try to add some code quickly, right? So we can paste it out right here. Can you see? We have just copied this JSON data from here and we have pasted out right here. So I'm using Golang, that's why it is smart enough to convert all this requirement to a particular struct. So only what we need to do, we need to just provide the name and create category request. Perfect. And this parent ID says interface, but this is not interface. We can say UINT. So we have name, we have parent ID, we have image URL, and we have display order. That's perfectly fine. So now let's go to our category handler. And here, while we are just creating the category, make sure we are parsing the user request correctly, and we are passing it on to our service, right? All right, so let's go ahead and add some code here in the create categories function, right? So because we are going to create the categories, then only we can perform the rest of all the operations, right? But to create the category, you can see we are grabbing the current user. That is not necessary here because these are the endpoints. These are the private endpoints already been authorized by our particular functions from auth, right? Authorized seller, right? If you're not a seller, then you cannot access all these functions, right? And eventually, this category is not belongs to only one particular seller, right? This is going to be globally available for everyone. Only one use case we need to handle, that is if the category name is already exists, then we should not supposed to create a new one, right? In the same name. So that is the use case. We can cover it in our service layer, right? But as of now, let's get rid of all these codes from here, right? And what we can do right now we are going to grab the request object, right? So request will come from where? It will come from DTO, right? DTO, the create request, right? And here we need to validate if we have any kind of error, right? So let's try to grab this context and body first. And here we are going to provide our request, right? So request. And now we will check it out if we have any kind of errors, right? If we have any errors, if errors are not equal nil, then we need to return something, right? So in this case, what we can return, because already we have a kind of particular error handler, the function that is we have already added in the rest. This here, can you see? If you go here, and you can see we have the error message, we have internal error, but this error message is too generic, so where we need to provide this particular error. But for bad requests, exactly, we can specify one function which can handle particularly for the bad request, like your user. This is quite common. User can enter, or maybe they're not entering correct data or something. Then we need to validate correctly, right? But every time you can see, adding this error as a kind of bad request, that's really going to be annoying, right? So what we can do, we can just move that bad request function to a dedicated functions which can handle. Particularly, we need to pass the message. That's all, right? We no need to send this status code or error object or anything, right? So let's try to do that. So how we can do that? So let's grab one of the functions from here. Let's try to rename this one as a kind of bad request, right? And this is going to be public bad request. And here, what we can do, we can just simply send the message, right? Here we can say message, right? Or maybe MSC. MSC will be the string, right? And instead of this status, this is what we can do. We can directly assign the bad request, status bad request. And in this session, what we can do, we can just say fiverr.map. So this time we're not using any kind of pointer because it doesn't make sense. Only one string we are providing here. We're not going to reuse this particular message output from the bad request, right? So let's try to provide a message. Message will be our message. Perfect. So while we are going to call this bad request, or while we are returning this bad request error, all right, bad request error, then we need to simply pass the message. That's all, right? So let's go ahead here in this catalog handler once again, and instead of this one, we are going to say request rest bad request error, and here we will simply pass the cdx context CDX, and we will say message create category request is not valid. Create category request is not valid. Perfect. So this is quite meaningful. So we can just call this bad request, we can pass the message, and it will straight away send the correct status code, right? If everything is going well, right, then what we need to do, we need to just like grab that particular request and pass it on to our service. So let's try to grab again the error, and we will say our handler dot service catalog service, then create category, and input what we are going to pass, this request, right? So now can you see the there is no any kind of errors are throwing from our create category service function, because it has input as any means like any type of interface we can just provide it here, right? And this error we can just like check it out if any error or exist again, like check it out like this way. Then we can say again, it's not bad request, this is going to be internal error this time, right? And this error will be, we can just simply pass it on right here, error, right? Because it makes sense right now, right? And can you see like it is saying error because we have already declared one error object here. So let's try to assign like this. Cool. And this is category created successfully. Right, come on. So category created successfully. Now what we are going to do, let's go ahead here in the create category function, right? So our handler is handled correctly, right? All the codes are in place. So let's go to our create category function. Here input, can you see input is any. So any is we don't want that one, right? So instead of this one, what we can say, we will say DTO dot create category request. So right now we have a valid input, right? Now let's try to call our repository. So how we can call it on? Go ahead here. Let's try to grab this error here and s.repo.the create category. And here we need to form our domain, right? So domain.category, and here we will say the ID is not required, name is going to be required. This is going to be our input.name, and image URL will be our input.image URL, and the priority, all right? So display order, right? Display order will be input.display order, right? And in this case, parent ID will be nil, right? So we cannot we can maybe skip this parent ID right here. If you go here, we have not added any kind of parameter right here. It's going to be required or not or something like that, right? So it doesn't matter at all right now. If you're not providing at all, that's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead this flow, right? So we will check it out. If we have error, then we will be pass it on from here. And if we don't have any error, let's provide it from here also, right? Then I think our create category is covered right now. So now let's go ahead and spin the application and check it out whether it is working or not, right? So let's try it out. So make server. But yes, only one thing we missed right here. Let's try to close this server. What exactly we are missing out? So we are missing out while we have just created this category table, all right? This is somehow we need to create the migration as well as, right? Don't forget to create that one, right? So go to server, and you can see here we have created these migrations. You can see domain user, domain bank account, right? Then new table also we need to add it right there. So this is going to be our category, domain, yeah, domain category, right? But for the category, we need to add the product as well as, right? So make sure like product also it's already there, right? So let's try to do that. So how we can go ahead here, again, go to our service, go to our server, and perfect. So we have added our category, but let's try to make sure like we are adding these product as well as product, domain.product. Right, because if you go to category, you can see we have the products, right? So if we're not providing the products, then it will give you the migration error because this product is already there, right? And while we're creating the migration, make sure like it has to be listed right here also, right? Now let's try to spin the application, right? So here, make server. Yes, our migration was successful. And if you go to our database server here, Can you see right now we have two more, right? So we have our categories, and if you open the categories, you can see all the fields are there, and this is our product. And if you see, it has already the category ID as a kind of the parent key, right? Our migration was successful. So one more thing we need to handle. So you can see in the setup routes here only we are setting up for our user handler only, right? So set up user routes. So in this case, what we need to do, we need to set up our catalog routes as well as. So let's go ahead here, and we will say handlers, then set up catalog routes. And here we will pass our age, right? And let's check it out, all the pipeline is clear or not, right? So in this case, if you go here in the catalog setup routes, and if you can see, app is right there in the correct place. And we have our catalog service, we have auth, we have config, right? So, and we have our handler, and we have assigned our service here in the catalog handler as well. So it seems everything is correctly it's defined, right? And all the categories have their own handlers. Especially we are caring about the discrete categories at this moment, right? So let's try to hit this particular endpoint. All right, so we are good to go. Now we can spin the application, but right before spinning the application, I'm gonna show you something, all right? So because if you are going to spin the application, there are potentially some kind of errors going to arise, right? So let's check it out, how or why exactly those errors are occur, right? So I kept all those errors intentionally, so at least you guys also can debug it, like how the way how to debug all these Go applications, right? By looking at these debug logs, right? So let's try to spin the application. Make server, and here we go. Can you see, like, it is giving this error? So these errors are pretty meaningful. You can see if you know better what exactly it's throwing it, right? So and what is the ping point, you need to just to try to understand. So first of all, our database is connected, migration was successful, and it says like in a panic, missing handler in route products, right? So all these errors, if you click on somewhere here in this bunch of logs, you'll get nothing right from here, right? So it is potentially, it is going to redirect to your particular route, right? That is exactly, it's written right here in the Go modules, or in Fiverr module, you can say, but you cannot get anything from here. So what exactly it's meaningful? Always make sure, if anything, it's not written from directly from the system side, or if it is coming directly from the top level error in terms of from your handler, then definitely you can find it out right here like this, right? So there are some advanced other way also where you can debug your code, right, by putting certain breakpoints and etc. That is, we are going to deep dive one by one. So in this case right now, it says like all the handlers are missing per product routes, right? So let's go here in the catalog routes, catalog handler, and you can see here in the products, these are the routes exactly. We have added the endpoints, but there is no any handlers are incorporated, right? So that's why it is throwing some kind of error. So let's try to do one thing. We are going to add some kind of handler just to satisfy these two endpoints, right? So what we can do, let's go to our product site. So where is the product? Yeah, get products, right? So maybe this is, yeah, products and product by ID, right? So do we have anything? Get products. Get product, yeah, we do have, all right? See the get products and get product. So maybe we forgot to entice this. These are the two handlers. So let's try to just hook up here. Handler dot get products, perfect, and handler dot get product by ID. Yeah, only get product. Yeah. This is plural and this is singular. Perfect. So now you can see we don't have any errors, right? There is no any error. It's gone. Now let's go to our Postman, right? So this is the last user we have used, and certainly we have joined our seller program as well as the create category, right? This one. Now let's try to call this one, right? So can you see category created successfully? It's giving the successful response. And if you go to database, right here in the database, and let's try to refresh this one. Right? Go to category. Now can you see we have the category, it's called smart TVs, and this is the image URL, and display order is 1, and created and updated is already there, right? So now can you see in this category we have one record created, right? So we don't have any parent ID, and this is the name and image URL. And regarding this image URL, you can see here in the Postman we are just simply passing some kind of random file string, right? So what we're going to do, we are not going to use this kind of files, all right? So while we are going to introduce our front end, then we will explicitly expose some kind of the upload URL where we will be pointing to our S3 bucket, and we will upload the file or that particular file from using the sign URL from the front end. So that is the part we are going to cover while we are working on the front end side, right? So now, so far it's good. Like we are having this category stuff, right? Now let's go here in the source code, and we will cover rest of all the endpoints. So first of all, let's grab the get categories, right? So in this one will be very easy. And here in this function, we don't need any kind of the input at all, because how many categories will be maximum, right? So if you think like there will be more than 100 or something, then maybe we can use the optional limit. But in our this application, we are not having more categories in terms of more than 100 categories, right? So let's keep it like that way. We will be getting all the categories, right? That is our mindset. So in this case, let's try to get the categories. Gets our categories, you can say categories and error. And what we are going to do, we are going to access our repository s.repo.get categories, right? So here we can say find categories. Yeah, this is the function where we're grabbing all the categories, and it's a kind of array, you can say, domain.category, all right? So that is we are returning here. So we will check it out if we are having any error, right? So if we are having any error, then we can say if we are having any error, then we can say return that particular error. And if we don't have any error, then we will be return what? We'll be return categories and error, right? So you can see our function signature is not complying with the error and categories. So in this case, what we can do directly, we can add our categories as well as a kind of array, and it will be kind of pointer domain.category. Perfect. Right, then we need to edit this one as well. So in this case, let's provide it's nil, right? Then error. Perfect. So get category is covered, right? But how we can call this get categories? So that is we need to hook up, right? So let's go to our catalog handler, and here you can see somewhere we are calling our categories, right? So where we're calling categories, let's go to endpoints here, categories, get categories, and here we are going to call our service, right? So here cats, and here as an example, right? And h.svc dot get categories, right? And these categories we are going to send it over here. Data, we are in the place of the data. We can say cats here, and we will check it out. If error is there, then we can send the error code. This return rest.error. You can say error message. We will send the cdx and error.error. Okay, status code is needed, right? Because we are missing the status code, right? So let's add this status code. So in this case, we can say 404, right? Because data doesn't exist, right? The category doesn't exist at all. So that's why we're sending the 404. But rest of all is good, right? So here we can say a message is success response is fine. Then message we can just put like categories. Or we can customize this success response as well as sometime, because definitely the message is not exactly it's mandatory, but you can still provide a message that's really meaningful, right? Perfect. Then our get categories are fulfilled, right? Now let's go ahead and handle this get category by ID. So in this case, how we can call this get category by ID from here in the service? So if you go to catalog service here, then definitely we have one input field, right? So you can see get category input field. So this is definitely going to be ID, and this is not any, right? We are not going to use any kind of interface. Here, this will be our IND, all right? So category ID, all right? That is precisely we need to use. And in a similar way, we can utilize similar kind of the mechanism, right? So let's try to get the category. Cat and error, and will be we can say s.repo.get category, get by category by ID. So do we have one? Yes, find category by ID. So in this case, we are going to pass the ID. And if we have any error, let's try to throw this error from here, right? And we can, why we are using like this, right? So definitely you can customize this error from here. Otherwise, you can directly omit this one also. This is also gonna work, because if you go here in the catalog handler, you can see still we have another error check also, right? So if error is not equal nil, then we are returning this one. Otherwise, we are returning this one, right? But why we are keeping like this way? So at least you have the options for customizing this error, right? So rather than throwing some kind of different error, which is maybe returning from the database or something, that is, you can customize this one. As an example, errors, new text, you can say unable to or categories, or you can say like this, new categories are empty, or category doesn't exist. You can say like this, right? So here also you can throw some kind of error, not this one, right? So in this case, yes, we need to change the function signature as well as. So in this case, it will be pointed to our domain dot category, right? Return will be error. So why we're putting as a kind of category, because we don't want to provide any kind of empty object, right? That's why we're just keeping as a kind of pointer here. So at least we can pass it on as a nil, right? And in this case, we can just pass cat, right? Category and nil. So, okay, good, perfect. So this time, this is not categories. Category doesn't exist, singular, right? Now our and get category by ID also, it's fulfilled, right? So let's try to call this one from category handler. So let's go here in the category handler. So get category by ID, and here we need to pass it on, right? So how we can grab this category by ID? So we need to grab these things from our parameter, right? So how we can grab it? Let's ID and error, let's say, all right? Or we are not going to consider the error. Then what we will say str convert, right? So here we are going to pass our string. This string we will be catching up from our context. So from cdx dot params, and what params we're going to use? We will be going to use ID, right? So here we can find it out the ID. So that ID we will be passing out from here, right? Can you see this ID exactly? We are grabbing right here, right? It's here. Now let's call our service, right? So in this case, we will say cat category and error, and we will say h handler.service done get category by ID. Get category, right? So here simply pass the ID, right? So if everything is well, then we will check like if error is not equal nil, then we will be returning similar kind of error, something like this way, right? So this error will be coming from our get category, and if it is there, everything is going good, then definitely we need to send a decal here, right? Category, and this is where we can say category only, not endpoint. Perfect. So our get category and get categories both are covered. Now let's go ahead here, and again we are going to handle all this edit and delete category as well as. So in the edit category, what you can say, simply we need to capture all these things, something like the categories, right? The similar way we have just used for our create category. Can you see? We are accepting the request, we are parsing the request, right? Then passing all this request through here, right? The similar kind of code we are going to use here. So you can directly grab all this piece of code here, and you can edit right here as well as. So a little bit tweaking is going to be needed. While we are editing the category, then definitely we are giving the options for changing the name, changing the parent, image URL, display order, all these things we are going to give the options. Similar, just like we create category, right? And this error message, maybe we need to tweak a little bit. We can say update category request is not valid, right? This is perfectly fine. Then this one is not going to be our create category. This is going to be update category, right? Service dot or edit category, you can say edit category, right? And here, two things going to pass from edit category. The first thing will be needed our ID, all right? This ID, we need to grab it from our path parameter. You can say here, if you go to our private endpoints, here, can you see? We're editing the category. Can you see edit category? And this is the similar way we are using right here for get category by ID. The same thing we need to implement here as well. So let's try to do that. So let's grab this get category by ID from here. And if you go to edit category, then first thing we need to grab this one, right? And this ID we are going to pass it here. But can you see like it is not complying at all? Because why? It says it has some kind of error, right? Because if you go to edit category and it is not returning anything from here, right? And first thing we need to confirm like how we are handling the repository level, right? And while we are editing the category, and certainly we are returning the category also, the updated category. That means if you go to our catalog service, then what we need to do here, once we are editing the category, then we need to return the updated category as well. So pointed to domain.category and error as well, right? And the input will be first input. What we are going to do, we are going to grab the ID, and ID will be our integer. And second thing, what we need to do, we need to grab the input as well. Input will be what? Input will be our this DTO.create the category request. So this is the same thing we need to use it right here, right? So these are the two inputs we are going to use. So I think if you go to catalog handler right now, and it should have to comply. So right now, cat, right? So updated category, right? And this updated category, we can just pass it on right here in the data, right? Edit category. All right. So you can pass any kind of message. That's up to you. But you can see it is not complying. Why? We forgot to add a colon right here. All right. Let's try to add a colon. Right. All right, so here in the edit category, let's try to add some code one by one, right? So first of all, what we are going to do, we will be going to find the category, right? So find category by ID, already we have implemented somewhere, right? So can you see this is the same code we are going to implement, right? So let's try to grab this piece of code, right, from here. And so now we have the category, right? The existing category, exist category, right? So this existing category you can utilize, right? So what we can do, first of all, let's try to grab all these inputs, right? So here we need to check like if we have any kind of inputs that is exist already, then we will be going to override it, right? So let's try to use type something like this way. So if the input, right, input dot name is exist, right? Then you can say exist cat dot name will be our input dot name. That's perfectly fine, right? So or maybe we can say that length, right? Length is 0 greater than 0. So if input name is not empty, right? Then we can assign it here. Then another condition we can put something like this way, because all these things you need to carefully consider it. Like sometimes maybe we need to provide a parent ID or maybe image URL or display in order. Only one item maybe we can edit. So in this case, all these conditions exactly it has to be in place. Otherwise, what is going to happen? Or what we can do? Let's say in exist cat will be we can just directly assign like input dot whatever the input is right there. Then we can assign it here. But this is going to be wrong, like if we are not going to evaluate if it is empty or not. Otherwise, the existing category information is going to be override with the empty informations, right? And because potentially what we are going to do from our front end, right? So we are going to provide the whatever the informations, or maybe only parent ID need to update, or maybe sometimes going to be image URL, or maybe display order ID. Only one item, maybe only we are going to update. So in this case, rest of all information is going to be updated as a kind of empty information, right? That is what we don't want, right? So that's why we need to have all this checks in place. Maybe you can move all these functions to all these conditions to a kind of helper function as well, as just to try to find it out. All these attributes, all these properties are exist or not. Based on that, maybe you can assign the properties. So that's I'm leaving up to you. This is often happening while you're sitting with a kind of technical interviews, you know. Then we need to find some kind of way how we can deal with this kind of problems, right? So it's a kind of brainstorming stuff. But I just wanna make it very simple, right? So let's try to check it out if we have any existing data right there. So this len exactly, you can see, or maybe you can directly do the trim as well as, right? So string trim by this one, then we can check it out the len. But I think in our case it's enough. It's quite enough. We're simply checking it out. This text is empty or not, right? If it has some kind of value greater than 0, then we are going to assign this one. Right? The similar way, just for rest of all the properties, you can say 0, right? Or this is right? So that is 0. You can say Paradime 0, then you can say regular, right? And all we need to do is like our input dot our 0, 0, and 0, and 0. And last one we have to this is our this is right. So this is also using number. So this is also using number, and we'll say this is number, this is number. Perfect. So, oh, sorry, display order, my bad. But anyway, so now, right now we have all the informations exist, right? So if we have any input right there, and if we find it out, like if it is exist, then we are going to straight away update it, right? And if it doesn't exist, then it's perfectly fine, right? We can leave it right there. And now what we are going to do, the second phase is going to be, we need to update it, right? So let's try to grab the error, and we will say, here updated cat, and we will say s.repo, then edit category, right? So here, can you see we have to directly, we can pass this the reference of that interface, right, which is potentially pointed to domain category, right? So let's try to pass it on, right? Now we can just pass this updated cat and error, right? Perfect. So now our edit category is also perfect. So now our edit category also covered, right? So last one thing is left, that is called delete category. So let's try to implement this one. This is pretty simple, right? So we are going to grab the ID. That is, we need to grab it from our path parameters, just like we did for our edit and get category by ID. So in this case, let's say we are going to use int, and let's try to grab error, right? And we will access our repository and delete category by ID. And we will simply pass ID, right? So if error is, or maybe what we can do directly, we can make it in one single line, because here nothing to do with the handling of the errors, right? Or other way around, you can add some kind of like logic as well as, you can put error also. And the similar way, we have just to customize this error, right? The similar way you can add it right there, right? So in this case, the first one is not going to be nil. Error, and this error we can check, like if error is not equal nil, then log the error here. Here we can log the error, and finally we can return this one. All right, and we can return nil as well as. Perfect. So this category or category doesn't exist, to delete, right? Or whatever the errors, we can just track it right here, right? Perfect. So now all the functions are covered. So now let's go ahead here in this catalog handler. So let's check it out. What are the things we have? We left right there to hook it up. So first one is edit category we have already covered, right? Then delete category is left, right? So delete category, the similar way, we are going to grab this ID from here and the delete category, and we are going to pass it on this error. Error will be from our handler.service.delete category by ID. Perfect. Then again, we are going to check it out if any kind of error exists right here, the similar way. If it is exist, then we are going to throw some kind of internal error. Otherwise, category deleted successfully. Let's say category. Perfect. Cool. So now can you see all the category functionalities are hooked up properly, all right? So now let's go ahead and give it a try with our Postman collection. So and we can make sure like our categories are on plus. Then we're moving to our products, right? And there are few tweakings we can do it, right? When we're getting our categories, and then we can patch it out our products as well as. but it depends on like, how you are patching out or how we are incorporating our products. So once we are placing our product system in place, then only we can make all this tweaking in the category side. So let's do it accordingly. But as of now, let's try to spin our server and try it out all the endpoints from the Postman, right? So make server. So our server is already spinning correctly. So here in the Postman, let's try to call the get categories, right? So here inside this product service collection, so we can open this get categories endpoint. So you can see this is the base URL, localhost 9000 and categories, right? So if you're going to call this one, you can see we're getting the data, right? I think we did a kind of spelling mistake right here. This is called date. It should have to be data, right? But anyway, you can see inside here one object is there. So we have created one category, right? That is what exactly it is listing right here. So let's try to fix this typo right here. And in the category side, where exactly these particular things we need to change? I think we need to change in the success response, right? So let's go here. You can see this is exactly data, right? Now, yeah, our application refreshed again. So let's go to Postman and try to call it once again. Now it's correct. It's data, right? So now our category ID is 1, right? And while we are trying to find it out by category by ID, then we need to use this particular ID, right? So let's go to here in the get category by ID. And here we can provide the category number. You can see this is 1, right? If you try to get the call this one, then it should supposed to return on one particular category. You can see we are getting that particular category, right? Now patching side is perfectly fine. Let's go and try to edit the category. So in the edit category, right, in the similar way, we are going to use this similar by using this similar endpoint, just like seller and categories. And this is the thing we have used for our create category. Let's try to grab this whole code and go to edit category. And the edit category also we can just like use similar type of convention, but in this case we need to provide the category ID. That is, you can see here in the category handler, inside this category handler, categories by ID, right? And edit category and the create category is pretty much similar because similar type of body we can pass it on. So let's try to change this the first category, right? That is already we are patching it out from here, right? So you can see this smart TVs, right? So I just want to change the smart TV's name and display order, right? So these are the two property we are going to change it here. So and in this case, this is not going to be put call. I think this is going to be patch call. Let's go ahead and make sure this is patch call, right? So here let's try to use the patch call, right? So difference between put and patch, maybe you people already know, but still I just want to repeat it once again. So patch is used to replace the certain properties, just like we did right here. We just try to compare some of the informations, so while we're trying to updating these informations, entire objects we are not returning, we are not replacing at all. Some of the information, as an example, ID will be remain same. If name we are passing it on, then only name going to be replaced, or parent ID or image ID, certain properties we are going to replace or we are going to edit, right? Not the entire object. So in the put call, like while we are going to call the put call, then it is going to replace the entire object, right? And if it is exists, then it will replace the entire object. And if it is doesn't exist, it is going to create a new one. So this is the way exactly we are using the patch and the put, right? So in our case, patch call, that's perfectly fine. We are not going to edit our parent ID, and image URL also not going to be changed. This is image or display order ID will be 2. Then smart TV, instead of the smart TV, let's say smartphones. Perfect. Then let's try to call this API. It says the authorization failed because why we are not using any authorization. Maybe our token has been expired maybe. So let's try to use the inherit token. Here in the join seller program, maybe what I can do, I can just do user login once again, right? So this is the user, right? Then this user ID already been assigned in the root directory. Now we can just try to edit the category, right? So let's go to edit category here and let's try to call it once again. Perfect. So can you see now it is added and it says like smartphone and this display order ID is 2. Now again, if you go to call this get category by ID, then it is already get changed, right? So I know it's just like simple CRUD operation, but trust me, we are in the right direction. So once these categories are completed, then we can just move ahead to the products. Then we can move ahead accordingly, like all the cards, and we're going to implement much more advanced stuff as well as, right? Cool. Then we can see like our category is editing is happening, right? Now let's go ahead and create one more category from here, right? So let's go to create category, and in this case, like again, smart TV, let's say I'm going to create it once again. And this category exactly we are going to delete, right? That is our agenda. And if you call this get categories, this time it should supposed to return 2 items, right? 2 items. And this item exactly, category ID 2, we are going to delete, right? The similar way we are going to call this delete API. In this case, provided category number 2, category ID 2. We are not passing any body, right? Headers always will be same, just like inheriting auth from parent. Let's try to call it on. Can you see category deleted? Category deleted successfully, right? Now, if you go to check it out, the get category, it should have to return only 1 item. Perfect. Cool. So I hope you have enjoyed this video tutorial. In the next section, we are going to handling the product items. All right, then I will see you in another episode.